Number 10. Fantastic Beasts 4. The new movie has technically already been planned by Warner Brothers, but it hasn't officially been confirmed, and the future of the franchise looks bleak, partly due to Miller's erratic behavior. Before the release of The Secrets of Dumbledore, Variety reported that the studio was waiting to see how the 3 films were received before making the tough decision about whether or not to go forward with the remaining 2 movies. But at this time, the major Ezra Miller problem that the studio has on their hands is dampening the future success of all the DC Expanded Universe projects until a firm decision is made about how to handle the star's offset issues. The actor has starred in all 3 Fantastic Beasts films, playing Credence Barebone, and is also set to headline the upcoming Flash movie. However, due to the actor's legal woes, the filmmakers have decided to drop them in the spin-off film. And with the other controversies surrounding the Fantastic Beasts trilogy, including J.K. Rowling's anti-trans comments, it's clear that any planned sequels are more or less dead in the water. Number 9. Very first arrest. In June of 2011, Miller was a passenger in a vehicle that got pulled over for a broken brake light in Pittsburgh while shooting Perks of Being a Wallflower. Police found 20 grams of a leafy green substance on Miller, and the then 18-year-old was charged with possession. The judge was very lenient though, and after giving them a lecture about influencing the younger cast members, he let them off with a slap on the wrist and dropped the case altogether. The actor instead faced 2 citations of disorderly conduct and was ordered to pay $600. But it's clear that Miller wasn't very sorry, as several years later in 2018 they started smoking the very same substance during an interview with The Hollywood Reporter. They also went on to tell New York Magazine, quote, "It's a harmless herbal substance that increases sensory appreciation," also making it known that they first started smoking from a very young age. Number 8. Strange comments. In 2011, the star took the role of a teenage school shooter in We Need to Talk About Kevin, which was eventually dubbed one of the most controversial movies ever made, probably because the subject matter was just so disturbing. Miller went very deep into the role of a sociopath with method acting, and the ultimate result was a character so unsettling that they said it even bothered some of their friends. Quote, "I do get a certain kind of validation and gratification from the way people will sort of approach me tentatively, with a little bit of fear after they see the film. The admission by itself is not that strange, but when you look at Miller's interview with Vogue several years later, they asked the writer if she would like to see the crossbow that their character used to attack several classmates in the same film. They apparently keep the crossbow in their house and jump at the opportunity to show it to anyone who asks them about the movie." Number 7. Pet chimpanzee. This one is really messed up. Billy Smith, who was a member of Elvis's entourage, openly talked about how Scatter, Elvis's pet chimpanzee, was essentially used as a party favor that they trained to harass women. It said that the chimp would often look for women at parties and grab onto their clothes. According to Smith, Scatter also drank heavily. Quote, "He could down a fifth of liquor before you knew it." Smith remembered another time when Scatter was beaten by a woman at a party for misbehaving. There have been conflicting reports about what really happened to the chimp. Some state that he merely lost his life due to old age, but Smith speculated that Scatter was poisoned by one of the maids who was tasked with feeding him after he was abandoned by Elvis and the crew who were out on the road. Although it's unclear exactly how he passed, it appears as though Scatter took his last breath on his own after years of living the party lifestyle. The whole thing was really rather sad, as it seemed like Elvis and his friends used the chimp just to entertain themselves and discarded him when they went on tour. Number 6. Attacked his fiancée. After Linda Thompson, Elvis briefly dated Mindy Miller before becoming involved with Ginger Alden, who was a full 20 years younger than him. It was only 2 months into their relationship when Elvis proposed to her and she accepted. The couple planned to walk down the aisle just a few months before Elvis's untimely death, and Alden even said how excited he was about their wedding and their future together as a couple. She revealed to Express that during his final days, quote, "Elvis was looking forward to many things: marriage, more children, serious films, and his next tour. But Elvis was reportedly very manipulative when it came to women and could be extremely jealous and controlling. According to sources close to the star at the time, he could get very violent. His treatment of her was horrifying, and the pair constantly argued during their time together. After one particular fight, he allegedly asked someone in his entourage to pop the tires on Alden's car so she couldn't leave his home. And on another occasion, when she was driving away after an argument, Elvis reportedly aimed his weapon at her car and fired. Number 5. David Letterman. All celebrities have had their moments on live television, and Madonna has quite a few herself, but this one really takes the cake and deserves a place in her new film. On The Late Show with David Letterman, Madonna made one of the most memorable appearances on a talk show that made television history for how scandalous it was. The pop star came out ready to shock the world, cigar in hand and filter completely gone. David Letterman isn't easily fazed, but in 1994, Madonna managed to make him just the slightest bit uncomfortable. A minute into her appearance on The Late Show, the host began teasing Madonna about her sex life, saying, quote, "Kiss a guy in the audience," and she responded by calling him a sick F, before launching into a 20-minute long rant that was hardly PG. In fact, she said the F word a total of 14 times. And yes, there was even a moment where she told Letterman to smell her underwear. It wasn't until 1996 that she revealed why she behaved that way. Quote, "The way he introduced me was derogatory. So my whole thing was like, okay, if that's how you want to play it, you cannot beat me at this game." Well, it's safe to say that she certainly did. Number 4, the infamous kiss. Anyone who didn't live under a rock knows where they were the night that Madonna shared her infamous onstage kiss with Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, live at the 2003 VMAs. It was perhaps one of the most famous moments of controversy, and Madonna's second major unscripted moment at the MTV VMAs. She performed Like a Virgin in front of a wedding chapel on stage, where she then kissed Britney Spears full on the mouth, and then Christina Aguilera right after that. The camera then cuts to Justin Timberlake's stern expression, which is hilarious because he was dating Britney at the time. The double kiss made it one of Madonna's most notorious performances of all time, and it's clear that she's been pushing the envelope when it comes to displaying her sexuality. It's just another reason she's been able to maintain her icon status for so long. Interestingly enough, in an interview about the VMAs several years later, she actually said that she wouldn't kiss Britney again. So it begs the question, what really happened between the two of them? Number 3, Sean Penn. The violent nature of Madonna and Sean Penn's relationship was something that has mostly been speculation over the years. They first met on the set of Material Girl in 1985. Both of them had just gotten out of relationships and started off as friends. However, their platonic relationship quickly blossomed into a romantic one, and by August of 1985, the two tied the knot on Madonna's 27th birthday. Their relationship started off good, but things quickly got rocky due to Penn's unpredictable outbursts and temper. The actor was said to have a major jealous streak and would fly into fits of rage whenever he saw what looked like Madonna getting close to other men. Eventually, Madonna decided that she had had enough, and she filed for divorce in December of 1987, later withdrawing the papers before filing again in January of 1989. It has been rumored that the singer suffered many years of verbal and physical violence from Penn, and that was the main reason for their divorce. But from what we know, it seems like the relationship was a traumatic one for Madonna, and the truth of it might need to be exposed in her biopic. Number 2, banned by MTV. The network just couldn't handle Madonna's Justify My Love music video, which included a racy group love scene with her then boyfriend Tony Ward and several other young men and women. But Madonna was not just talented on the microphone, she was also very business savvy, and since MTV banned the video, she went on to release it as a VHS single, which was the first song ever to be released in that format. She knew that people would pay to see something that was too scandalous for mainstream TV, and boy was she right. The video went platinum 4 times over and sold more than 1 million copies. But it wasn't just about making money for her. When asked about the video in an interview on Nightline, she said, quote, "If we're going to have censorship, let's not be hypocrites about it. Let's not have double standards. We already have these videos that display degradation to women and violence that are played 24 hours a day, but yet they don't want a video playing that deals with sex between 2 consenting adults?" That was so well said, it just goes to show you how ahead of her time she really was. And number 1, Tupac Shakur. Not many people know that Madonna and Tupac were in a secret romantic relationship. Yes, that's right, 2 of the biggest names in music history actually had a brief romance going on in the 90s. So we definitely do not think that this could be left out of the Madonna biopic. It all started when their paths crossed in the mid-90s and they were instantly drawn to each other. But the societal constraints of the time made it nearly impossible for them to break through the noise and explore their love for each other. other. The pop star had been famously tight-lipped about their romance and only confirmed it in March of 2015 that she and the rapper had been an item shortly before his death. But in July of 2017, a letter Tupac wrote to Madonna while at the Clinton Correctional Facility was put on auction and sold for more than $170,000. The letter dated all the way back to 1995 and delves into the factors behind their breakup and Tupac's innermost feelings about her. The whole thing reads like a Romeo and Juliet story in which star-crossed lovers have been torn apart due to political tensions and not just as a result of their own decisions. Number 10. Affair with August. So by now, we all know Jada's affair with August as Lena, but it was a secret that she never wanted exposed, and something that she tried to deny up until the very last minute. This is how it all went down. While promoting his third album, August sat down with the Breakfast Club and claimed that the Smiths, whom he considers to be like his family, had an open marriage, and Will allegedly gave the singer permission to date Jada. Quote, "I actually sat down with Will and had a conversation. He gave me his blessing." He also admitted that they deeply love each other, but that he felt like not talking about their relationship was affecting him professionally and personally, because it was a secret that was weighing him down. This was explosive when it first came out, and it's clear that Jada would have prevented this if she could. Almost immediately, her publicist came out with statements denying any romantic involvement, stating that the claims were absolutely not true. But it was already too late to backtrack, and the couple finally decided to air out their dirty laundry and went on the Red Table Talk about a week later. Number 9. Feud with Gabrielle Union. Unbeknownst to the world, Jada Pinkett Smith and Gabrielle Union were secretly not speaking to each other for almost 2 decades. The actresses, who both gained prominence in the late 90s, had a long-standing tension between them that led to a 17-year-long feud. Although neither of them can pinpoint the exact moment that caused the rift, both admit to feeling awkward around each other during this period. The two finally put an end to the silence in an episode of the Red Table Talk, where they both talked about how they've grown in terms of female relationships. Jada said, quote, "She and I did not talk for 17 years and we could not remember why. There was just a tension between us every time we would see each other." She went on to say that there was some moment where they had left a bad taste in each other's mouths. Years later, when they finally got on the phone to figure out what exactly went wrong, they couldn't figure it out. Jada went on to suggest that it was probably just the two of them being young divas, but even they don't really know for sure. Number 8. Scientology school. This next one is super crazy. Leah Remini claimed that the Smiths founded a school based on Scientology. So to give some background, the couple opened the New Village Leadership Academy, a mysterious private school in Calabasas, California, that opened its doors in 2008 before quietly closing in 2013. While Jada furiously denied the allegations in a 2009 interview with Ebony magazine, quote, "All I can say is that it is not a Scientology school. Now, if you don't trust me and you are questioning my integrity, that's a whole different matter." But the Daily Beast actually spoke to 4 former teachers at the school who all admitted that Scientology is not only bled into the curriculum, but that it was essentially a Scientology school. Also, most of the teachers were followers of the controversial religion themselves, and there were pictures of L. Ron Hubbard hanging on the walls, who was a science fiction writer and founder of Scientology in the 70s. Not only that, but on the Academy's website, which has since been removed, it actually mentioned the study technology as, quote, "an educational model developed by L. Ron Hubbard." Number 7. Victim speaks out. The incident grabbed global headlines when footage of Ezra placing a female fan in a chokehold and pushing her to the ground went viral online in early April of 2020. Soon after the incident, Variety was able to speak with the woman who was attacked, and her side of the story is pretty shocking. When she told Ezra to meet her in the smoking area, she said she wasn't serious. Quote, "It was just a joke, obviously, but they took that literally and got super mad and came running outside." That's when one of the woman's friends started recording. She told Variety that at first she thought it was all fun and games. Quote, "All of a sudden they're on top of me, choking me, still screaming in my face if I want to fight." It was then that her friend stopped recording and tried to push Ezra off her, and the actor started screaming, "This is what you wanted." The woman said they even spat in her friend's face multiple times, and to think all of this happened because of a joke. Number 6. Supermarket incident. Ezra seems to be getting entangled in controversy after controversy, most recently being on the run from the US law enforcement. Now the actor has randomly appeared in a supermarket in an undisclosed location in the height of their social media frenzies. The TikTok video, which featured the actor, was posted to an Instagram named Peter Knighton on Sunday and has been viewed over 3.5 million times on that platform alone. The 10-second clip shows a young retail worker attempt to take a selfie with Ezra and presumably calls calls himself a fan, insinuating that he is excited or starstruck. The actor, who appears to be mid-conversation with someone else, notices the camera on them, and they then tell the fan, quote, "I could always just knock you out and then you won't have to panic." The young man is a little confused at first and unsure if they are the ones being spoken to, but Ezra looks right at him and says, "Just let me know." No? Yes? It really begs the question, why do they love attacking their fans so much?
Halfway number 5 spoke highly of the relationship. Heard's testimony painted the highs and lows of the relationship, and before getting into the bad times, Heard made the time to tell the jury about all the good times the couple had together. Amber Heard fought back tears as she told the jury about falling in love with Johnny Depp on the press tour for The Rum Diary in 2011, saying that being with him felt like magic, adding, quote, "I felt like this man knew me, saw me, in a way that nobody else had. When I was around Johnny, I felt like the most beautiful person in the world. It made me feel seen. It made me feel like $1 million." Clearly highlighting the relationship between the pair was not always toxic, and there were a lot of good times in the beginning. In at number 4, strange moment filming The Rum Diary. Heard told the jury about a strange moment that happened between the pair during the filming of their movie. At this time, both Heard and Depp had feelings for one another, but neither was acting on it because they were both still in relationships. At one point the pair were talking and Heard was wearing a robe, completely naked underneath. Recalling, quote, "He kind of picked up the back of my robe with his boot and I kind of turned around and giggled. He kind of playfully pushed me down on his bed, sofa, playful and flirtatious, and he said, 'Yum,' and kind of lifted his eyebrows up like that. At the time, Heard remembered it being strange, but since she liked him, it didn't bother her."
Number 3, addicted to medication. It's not unheard of for celebrities to turn to substances as a way to cope with fame and just how crazy their lives become in the spotlight. But Elvis's alleged addictions could have had a very different origin when you look at the tragedy of his mother's passing. In 1958, he was drafted into the US Army, but went to Germany but had to return to the US less than 6 months later because of his mother's untimely death. Many people believe that this marked the beginning of the end for Elvis, who quickly headed down a path of self-destruction. As soon as he returned to Germany, it's reported that Elvis partied heavily and would often get into fights. During this time, he also started taking illegal substances to try and deal with the grief of losing his mother. This probably snowballed, and it's assumed that from that moment on, the misuse of substances played a major role in his life. Linda Thompson wrote several examples in her memoir about these incidents and says that she often found Elvis passed out in a bowl of chicken noodle soup under the influence of sedatives. She even says that doctors tried to hospitalize him for 2 weeks after misusing a combination of medication for far too long. Number 2, why Priscilla ended things. Because she was only 14 years old when their courtship began, it's really no surprise that she missed out on a huge chunk of her adolescence. She told Jonathan Ross in 2015, quote, "I was kind of lost, really in who I was earlier in my life. I really didn't have teenage years." After their first child, Lisa Marie, was born, Priscilla accused Elvis of not wanting to sleep with her after she had given birth. Elvis told her that he wanted her to recover, but Priscilla later wrote in her memoir that he had mentioned before they were married that he had never been able to make love with a woman who'd had a child. In fact, throughout their marriage, Elvis continued to cheat on Priscilla with other women, and she herself had her own affair with an owner of a dance studio. It's safe to say that their marriage never really recovered. They finalized their divorce in 1973, and she said that this was because her life was his life, which meant her problems were always going to be secondary. Years later, she admitted that she did not divorce him because she didn't love him, but because she had to find out about the world. She was clearly just way too young when they started seeing each other. Number 1, erratic violence. In recent years, Linda Thompson has been pretty open about her time with Elvis Presley, stating, quote, "We all knew how dangerous Elvis's rage could be. Apparently, when she first noticed Elvis could get pretty angry was when someone reportedly stole personal photos of one of his ex-girlfriends with another woman. She claimed that he then decided to show off his samurai sword collection while under the influence of illegal substances and left her fearing for her life. Although she said that he was true to his word and he didn't in fact hurt her, she was concerned because his talents were entirely impaired due to the narcotics. These were just some of the several times that his ex said that she worried about his boiling rage. Apparently, the musician even invested in a concealed carry permit to take the weapons on stage with him, including several that were actually stuffed into his shoes, just in case someone got a little bit too rowdy in the crowd. Even singer Tom Jones spoke about Elvis's love of weapons during a visit to his dressing room. Tom said that he noticed a loaded weapon just sat on the side and simply handed it to Elvis by wrapping it in a towel. Sounds a little crazy to me.
And at number 10, the couple secretly dated. At this point, we all know that Amber and Johnny met during the making of their movie, The Rum Diary, but we did not know until now that the romance did not start until the movie was done filming, and the pair were together once again during the press tour. The press tour began right after Heard was going through a separation from her former partner, and she called it, quote, perfect timing. The press tour took place in 2011, and Heard said that being with him felt like magic. The pair were forced to keep their romance a secret because Depp split from his former partner, Vanessa Paradis, was not yet public. Depp and Paradis decided to keep the split private for the sake of their kids. Heard said, quote, we were in a bubble of secrecy. They both had feelings for each other and were both recently out of relationships. And at number 9, he would belittle the way she dressed. Amber stated that their relationship was always very intense, but over time it escalated and became more violent, bringing up how he would make snide comments about how she dressed and degrade her. One time when she wore a low-cut dress to a charity event, Johnny said, quote, you're gonna wear that, kid? Adding, quote, no wonder you're getting cast in those roles, insinuating that she was showing too much skin and it's getting her cast in sultry roles. She even recalled that he called other actresses, quote, worthless whores. He made it sound dirty to be an actress, Heard said, and if he got really mad while speaking about it, he would, quote, blow up and smash things, with Heard specifically saying that he loved to break furniture and glasses. And at number 8, Depp was generous with her family. When Heard was asked about Depp's relationship with her family, she said that it was great and both parties really liked each other. She recalled that Johnny was incredibly generous with her working class family, and her father liked Depp so much that he would, quote, have married him if I didn't. Depp showered her entire family with gifts, paid for family trips, and all around made sure to appreciate her parents. It's unclear what the motive was for her to paint Johnny in such a positive light at that point in the trial, but I believe it was concocted this way to show how their amazing relationship turned sour as time went on.
And at number 7, a bug was named after her. Listen, I know this one's out there and it's really not even a secret or something you try to hide. I just thought it was fun, so I'm putting it in. I wish the video was titled Top 10 Madonna Facts because this lady is interesting, alright? Sue me. But anyways, in 2006, scientists named a species of microscopic water-dwelling organisms, which is most commonly known as the water bear, after Madonna. The water bear's scientific name is, and bear with me, get it, Echinyscus madonnae. Don't quote me on that. It's also called a tardigrade, which is much easier. Although I'm sure it's because the researchers just loved Madonna's music, naming a bug after her is quite fitting, and I'd be proud to share a name with the water bear because it's basically invincible. Living for upwards of 120 years without food or water while withstanding harsh environmental conditions, these bugs are absolute tanks. For someone as resilient as Madonna, I'm sure she has some pride for her little bug, as both of them have managed to remain strong and consistent throughout their lives. Although it is weird that a water bug born on the same day as Madonna will outlive her by quite a few decades. Coming in at number 6, she kissed Drake at Coachella and it was so awkward. Okay, this one definitely isn't a secret considering how extensive the media coverage was, but I'm struggling here, so give me a break. At Coachella in 2015, Madonna appeared during a Drake performance where she danced around him while he was sitting in a chair. Then she went right up to him and basically stuck her tongue down his throat on stage for all to see. The shocked look on Drake's face afterwards definitely wasn't pleasant, and the non-consensuality of it all was definitely an extremely hot topic.
Number 5. Massachusetts. The Daily Beast recently published a shocking report that Ezra allegedly got into an aggressive confrontation with a Greenfield, Massachusetts family over a board game. Yes, you heard that right. To give you some background, the family's home is around 40 miles from Ezra's farm in Vermont. The family's downstairs neighbor is reportedly in a band with one of Ezra's friends, and while visiting their home, they got into an argument with the mother because she told a story about some recent travels with friends and called them her tribe of people. The actor then responded with accusations of cultural appropriation, and tensions continued to escalate when the Flash star claimed that the board game Parcheesi was rooted in Rastafarian culture. The mother questioned Ezra about this and they responded by screaming into her face. According to the report, they then allegedly opened up their jacket to reveal a weapon and said, quote, talking like that could get you into a really serious situation. Wow. Number 4. Flash set. A new report reveals that Ezra had frequent meltdowns on the Flash movie set, although sources state that they were not really violent outbursts. Miller had made their debut in the DC Extended Universe with Justice League as Barry Allen, the speedy superhero living in Central City who was enlisted by Ben Affleck's Batman to join a super team and face off against Steppenwolf. The star continues to be the center of controversy. Sources on The Flash noted that this behavior didn't result in any vocal or violent outbursts outbursts from the star, but rather periods in which Ezra was, quote, losing it. An anonymous source to the star said, quote, Ezra would get a thought in his head and say, I don't know what I'm doing. The report also revealed that Warner Brothers and DC executives recently held an emergency meeting to discuss Ezra's future as the Flash in the DCEU, with one source stating that there was an agreement to pause any future projects involving their version of the superhero. Number 3, viral video post. This one is really strange. In January this year, Ezra posted a cryptic video to social media in which the actor appears to threaten members of the racist supremacist group in North Carolina. In the video, Ezra suggested that if they want to die, they have the means to do it. Otherwise, the actor implied that they would be happy to assist them, saying, quote, then, we'll do it for you if that's really what you want. Talk to you soon. Okay, bye. Along with the video, Ezra wrote in the caption, quote, please disseminate this video to all whom it may concern. This is not a joke, and even though I do recognize myself to be a clown, please trust me and take this seriously. During the episode, Ezra reportedly transported an unknown supply of firearms and ammunition from Vermont to North Carolina for a potential confrontation with the group. The DC superhero actor then started trending on social media, with a number of viewers taken aback by the message. We are still not sure of the underlying reason behind it, but it's safe to say that the whole thing was extremely odd. Number 2, concealing a weapon. According to an interview with Gibson Ionize's uncle, Lakota Chief Bear Cross, that was published by The Last Real Indians, Ezra Miller concealed that they were brandishing a pistol while visiting Gibson's family. The teenager they have been accused of kidnapping. The chief said, quote, we were posing for a photo, and after we took the photo with my family, we decided to get one with just me and Ezra. Well, Ezra just opened their big old jacket and pulled out the .40 caliber firearm. I asked if that's real, and Ezra said yes. Ezra also said in Vermont you don't need a permit to conceal. The chief said that it made him feel very unsafe because Ezra pulled it out unannounced, and he did not know that he had a firearm. He also stressed that he would not have invited the actor into his home if he knew about this because he feared for the safety of his children. Gibson's uncle also said that just from the interactions with Ezra alone, he felt that they were dangerous and violent towards women. Honestly, that's kind of a red flag. Number 1, deleting Instagram. They taunted police on Instagram before deleting their account altogether, and authorities are still unable to locate the actor. The Justice League star posted a number of images to their Instagram stories which looked like it was meant to mock the police search. Quote, you cannot touch me, I am in another universe. Although Ezra's account has since been deleted, screenshots of the stories have been circulating on Twitter, and it's easy to see why this is aggravating people. Ezra has been accused of brainwashing an 18-year-old indigenous activist named Gibson Ionize and has been creeping on them from a very young age. The Standing Rock Sioux Tribal Court has issued a protective order against Ezra, but they simply cannot serve the papers as they can't be located at all. Ezra has also posted, quote, I am shielded from negative people and their ill intent. I am protected from all negative energy people attempt to throw at me. Well, even if the 29-year-old has gone off the deep end, most people now are clearly more concerned for the welfare of the young Gibson. Number 10, Guy Ritchie. Film director and Madonna's second ex-husband, Guy Ritchie, is a prominent relationship that she had throughout her career. The two met in the late 90s and they hit it off right away. The pair had a child in August of 2000 and were married not long after. He even ended up directing the music video that was so scandalous it was banned from MTV and VH1. The violent video, What It Feels Like for a Girl, featured shots of Madonna driving recklessly, robbing a guy at an ATM, and squirting police officers with a water gun. But things did not end well for the couple as they ultimately got divorced in 2008, and soon as it was publicly confirmed, the British tabloids had a field day when it came to pointing fingers about what went wrong in their relationship. There were rumors of Madonna having an affair with baseball star Alex Rodriguez, and the couple fought over adopting their son, David, from Malawi in 2006. And after that, the pop star was thrown from a horse on her 47th birthday, and she broke several bones. Guy basically abandoned her. Number 9, Puerto Rico. In 1993, Madonna was set to arrive in San Juan for a concert as a part of her girly show tour, but certain groups on the island were worried about Madonna's influence over the youth and demanded that the concert be cancelled. Even the Puerto Rican government agreed agreed that the singer was a bad influence on the kids, but the concert went ahead. For all the controversy, the tickets sold out instantly. But on the evening of the concert, several religious groups started protesting by singing hymns around the fans. So how did Madonna respond? Well, in a show of defiance, she rubbed the Puerto Rican flag on her crotch, further outraging the government and the protesters. This incident really played into her image because at the time, the more dangerous she was, the more people were interested in her. Everything she did had repercussions. Still, the whole incident was very scandalous, so her new biopic will probably touch on everything that went down in Puerto Rico. Number 8. Condemned by the Pope. Madonna's 1989 video for Like a Prayer, which featured her dancing in front of burning crosses and doing a bunch of other things that were thought of as too risky for its time. The song was initially used in a differently themed Pepsi ad starring Madonna, and she got $5 million for the planned endorsement deal. But after the video garnered controversy, including condemnation from the Vatican, Pepsi cancelled its contract with the singer. Religious groups called for boycott of the song, and even Pope John Paul II spoke out against it. Quote, "The video is blasphemy and insult because it shows immorals inside a church. This would mark the start of Madonna's lifelong fight with the Vatican and her complicated relationship with Catholicism, which was only just beginning." But the way she responded to all this is what made her a true icon. She actually walked the red carpet the next day in a bright red dress carrying a Coke can, and Pepsi still let her keep that initial $5 million that she was going to be paid for the commercial. There's probably so much that went on behind the scenes of this stunt that we really need to find out. Number 7. Michael Jackson. Seeing the two massive icons in pictures together seems like a fever dream sometimes. Jackson and Madonna were reportedly briefly an item in the early 90s, and the Queen of Pop once revealed that she had the best date ever with Jackson. The entertainment industry is really quick to assume relationships between the world's biggest stars when they are seen together, but Madonna actually confirmed the two were a real item in a 1991 interview. She asked him if he would like to be her date to the Oscars, and he accepted. She followed it up by saying, quote, "And then, yes, he took me home. You wanna know what happened after that? I'm not gonna tell you." During a 2016 interview with James Corden on his carpool karaoke, Madonna revealed that she did enjoy a fling with Michael, but he was shy when they kissed, and she had to loosen him up with a glass of Chardonnay. But what happened during their tryst is something that she has avoided talking about for a really long time, so it's a very real possibility that she's finally ready to uncover exactly what happened between them. Number 6. Banned from the theater. This controversy is definitely one of the more recent ones that Madonna has been involved in, but it is nevertheless something that she might like to address in her biopic. She allegedly texted on her BlackBerry for the duration of a 2013 screening of 12 Years a Slave, resulting in her being banned from the Alamo Drafthouse theater chain. To make matters worse, when an audience member called her out on her behavior, she reportedly screamed, "It's for business," and called them an enslaver. Then in 2015, after she was caught texting from the front row of a performance of Hamilton, Lin-Manuel Miranda personally banned Madonna from all future performances. Jonathan Groff, who played King George in the original run, spoke to Vulture about the incident. Quote, "That bee was on her phone. You couldn't miss it from the stage. It was a black void of the audience in front of us, and her face was there perfectly lit by the light of her iPhone through 3/4 of the show. You can't make this stuff up, it's just too bizarre." I mean, she's a queen, but she's always been really problematic. Number 5. Allegations of racism. Last year, Quincy Jones revealed to The Hollywood Reporter that he always refused to work with Elvis because he was a racist. The musician, best known for producing Michael Jackson's albums Thriller, Off the Wall, and Bad, made the comments about Elvis's supposed history of racism in his new interview. The outlet asked Jones about Presley after the producer compared Jackson to the king of rock and roll. The 88-year-old musician and producer described a time when he was writing for the orchestra leader Tommy Dorsey in the 50s, and Elvis came in saying, quote, "I don't want to play with him." Jones went on to call Elvis a racist and added, quote, "But every time I saw Elvis, he was being coached by Otis Blackwell, telling him how to sing." And while there wasn't an overwhelming amount of accusations surrounding Elvis's past racism, there are certainly many allegations against the icon for appropriating black culture and repackaging it to the general public as his own. Despite this, it's obvious that American society still allowed him to have a very successful career, whether it was something the lead singer did consciously or subconsciously. Number 4. Hidden children. Even though he has been gone for many years, Elvis Presley has always been the center of several new scandals and controversies. One of the many that have hit the headlines in the last few years is that the king of rock and roll supposedly kept hidden children from the rest of the world. The National Enquirer actually conducted a 2-year investigation into the hidden children of the Presley family, reportedly acquiring witness testimonies, checking receipts, mail correspondence, birth certificates, and even DNA tests. The result of the investigation allegedly proves that Elvis did have several additional children that were being kept away from the spotlight of Hollywood. In fact, multiple alleged mothers of Elvis's hidden children have come forward to tell their stories about how they met the star, and the stories have some strange similarities. One example is Desiree Romaine Presley, who is the daughter of Lucy DeBarban, and she claims that her mother was in a 24-year-long relationship with Elvis and was being kept away from the media. But the crazy thing is that Desiree's father is listed as Randolph Presley on her birth certificate, someone who allegedly worked at the Air Force Base in Oklahoma City.
And at number 3, first time they met. Amber Heard told the jury about meeting Johnny Depp the first time while auditioning in 2008 for The Rum Diary, which she was starring in and producing. At the time, Heard was only 22 and a no-name actor, so it was intimidating to be in the room with him. Heard said she thought it was an audition, but it ended up being a meeting where the pair clicked. Saying, quote, "We talked about books and music and poetry. We liked a lot of the same stuff. Obscure writers and interesting books and pieces of poetry I haven't heard anyone else know or reference or like." Heard claimed she was not a fan or familiar with his work, but she obviously knew who he was because he was one of the most famous people in the world. Depp told her personally when she got the role, calling her and saying, quote, "You're it, kid, you're the dream." In his testimony, Depp recalled that he and Heard were, quote, "perfect partners" when they first met. He loved that she knew about blues music and called her sweet and funny. And at number 2, Amber admits the trial is horrible. When Amber first took the stand, she pointed out to the jury that reliving all these memories has been hard, saying, quote, "This is horrible for me. I'm here because my ex-husband is suing me." Getting even more emotional, Heard continued, quote, "I struggle to find the words to describe how painful this is. This is horrible for me to sit here for weeks and relive everything," tearing up as she spoke. Quote, "This is the most painful and difficult thing I've ever gone through," she said to the jury. Amber broke down several times during her testimony, crying while recalling details of their relationship. And finally at number 1, relationship was intense. In the beginning of their relationship, Amber and Johnny were on a high, very obsessed with one another and feeling like they had met their soulmates. The relationship was so hot and heavy in the beginning. Amber admitted that Johnny hinted at marriage only days after meeting her. When describing how he treated her, she said it was, quote, "that kind of feeling where he had lavish gifts, lavish expressions of love, and how he'd never met a woman like me. At one point he even made a fake wedding ring for her. Quote, "I remember he took the foil off of this bottle and put it on my ring finger, and I'd only been with him like days, maybe it was weeks at the time. It just felt very intense." This is very interesting considering Depp was with Vanessa Paradis, who he shares 2 kids with, for 14 years, but they never got married.
Number 10, germaphobe. While speaking to Jonathan Ross in a 2015 interview, Priscilla Presley revealed that her late ex-husband was terrified of germs and would take his phobia to the extreme. She claimed that he even refused to use anyone else's silverware, which even included the ones at high-end restaurants. She said that because of his secret germophobia, he never liked to go to other people's homes to eat because he would have to take his own silverware, and that would often cause quite an uncomfortable situation, as you could imagine. Quote, "And he didn't like drinking out of cups that other people had drunk out of, even restaurants or other people's homes. So when he drank, he would drink where the handle was, knowing that no one would ever drink at that side." Although this information is not widely known, Priscilla says Elvis has been that way ever since he was a child. She believed that he just didn't like to put his mouth where other people had put their mouth, especially with cutlery and dishes, which is definitely something most people wouldn't have known about the star. Number 9, liked younger women. In her book Elvis and Me, Priscilla Presley wrote that she just turned 14 when she met Elvis Presley, who was 24 years old at the time and already an international superstar. Despite the scandal, they started an intimate courtship that lasted 7 years before they eventually married in 1967. Now, the age difference is creepy on its own, but it becomes even creepier when you compare that to what Linda Thompson wrote in her own memoir. Thompson, who dated Elvis after his marriage to Priscilla ended, was also very young and inexperienced at the time. In fact, he allegedly told her, quote, "I want to preserve you for as long as you need." Whatever he meant by that, it just sounds super icky. Elvis reportedly took advantage of his power to manipulate young, impressionable fans whenever he went on tour. Joel Williamson, who wrote a historical book about Elvis, claimed that 2 years before he met his future wife, the star took a group of 3 girls with him on tour for the purpose of, quote, pillow fights, tickling, and cuddling. Number 8. His vanity. Fame is a terrible drug that often pushes stars into the oddest methods of trying to stay thin and beautiful. Linda Thompson wrote in her memoir that Elvis's obsession with being slim would drive him to bizarre measures to keep the weight off, including an alleged 2-week period of sedation. That's exactly what it sounds like. Elvis mainly slept all day except for brief periods where he woke up long enough to go to the bathroom and eat a small portion of food before being sedated again and going back to sleep. She also claimed that he regularly did crash diets on just 500 calories a day. She also exposed his secret about why he constantly wore shirts with high collars. Apparently, he did it to conceal his neck, which he actually hated. She wrote that the whole reason he wore the trademark style was to keep his, quote, skinny little chicken neck hidden from the public. Then at age 40, Elvis allegedly opted for a facelift. Quote, there has been speculation through the years that Elvis has his eyes done or some other mystery procedure, but that mini facelift was the extent of his plastic surgery. Well, it seems like his ex-wife was really intent on revealing a side of him that was incredibly vain. Number 7. Failed music career. Miller's passion for singing didn't end after they began pursuing their acting career. Their band, Sons of an Illustrious Father, has over 22,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, which means that despite Miller's fame and notoriety, the band hasn't really seen much success over a decade of making music. So things started to make sense when in May of this year, 2 musicians came forward accusing Miller of stealing music they worked on and releasing it without giving them credit. Music producer Oliver Ignatius and rapper Guy Scavera claimed that the actor stole the music they worked on together and posted it to social media without credits. Ignatius met up with Miller in both the Northeast and Hawaii to collaborate on new music, but soon realized that they, quote, seemed to be on a very dangerous spiral and said that working with the actor actually felt like pulling teeth. In fact, they called their behavior atrocious, belligerent, threatening, and incredibly aggressive. But after Ignatius quit the project, Miller then posted the unfinished music online, including songs that they had not worked on together at all. Now Ignatius plans to file a court order for Miller to take the music down. Number 6. Altercations with fans. The Flash actor has had so many disturbing and at times violent altercations with fans that there's almost too many to mention. One was actually captured on video in 2017 at a San Diego Comic-Con event when a fan jokingly asked Miller to smell their breath, and Miller responded by kissing the fan directly on the mouth, planting a big kiss on the man's lips without clear consent. The trouble is that Miller seemed to be slightly intoxicated in the video, leading fans to question if they were drunk. And in a since deleted tweet, a disturbing video shows Miller choking a woman at a bar in Iceland. The incident took place after Miller was approached by a group of eager young fans, and the actor appeared to lose their temper at the young woman for no apparent reason. She was then grabbed by the throat and thrown to the ground. But the actor seemed to have evaded a lot of heat for the altercation, as some fans claim that it's still a joke. Number 5. Marriage to Will. In December of 1997, the couple got married. A year later, Jaden, their first child, was born. In 2000, they became the parents of a girl they named Willow. Although her marriage had already surpassed 2 decades, which is a really long time when you look at other Hollywood couples, there were many secrets about their real feelings towards each other that were kept hidden from the public eye. Jada eventually confessed that at first she did not want to marry Will. She was 3 months pregnant at the time and felt that she was pressured to say I do. Quote, I was so angry because they forced me to get married. So angry that I walked all the damn aisle to the altar crying. So on their wedding day, Jada got cold feet and actually didn't want to go through with it. There was also a time when their marriage hit rock bottom, and it happened when Will realized that his wife had cried for 45 days straight over their troubled marriage. Quote, she would wake up and start crying. She did it for 45 consecutive days. I know this because I wrote it down in a diary. He also said that it was a time he felt worst in their marriage. This was very difficult for the actor because he had been trying to paint the picture of a perfect family, but it was only putting stress on the couple. Number 4. Leah Remini's accusations. In her memoir, Troublemaker, Leah recalls a time that she and her husband, Angelo, spent time at Tom Cruise's Beverly Hills mansion when he invited a group of well-known Scientologists and other celebrities, including the Smiths. This is where the story gets a little crazy. He announced to all the guests that he wanted to play hide and seek. Leah somehow got out of it and claimed that her stilettos were too high to run. While it sounds a little weird, in her book, Leah called the Smiths as more famous friends of the church, and even told the Daily Beast in 2017, quote, I know Jada's in. She's been in Scientology a long time. I never saw Will there there, but I saw Jada at the Celebrity Center. She even goes on to mention the Scientology school that they opened and reveals that despite what Jada has been saying, that she is indeed good friends with Tom Cruise and an active member of the controversial religion. Then on Watch What Happens Live in July 2017, Jada told Andy Cohen that the hide-and-seek story just wasn't true, and later posted on Twitter, quote, "I have studied Dianetics and appreciate the merits of study tech, but I am not a Scientologist." Number 3. Addiction to adult videos. The actress confessed a little-known fact about her personal life. One of them was that she used to be addicted to sex. Quote, "My types of addictions jump from one side to the other. When I was younger, I thought I had some kind of sex addiction and that everything could be fixed with that." She claimed that she was addicted to adult movies at a time in her life when she had decided to practice abstinence. But her addiction got out of control and she was forced to stop consuming X-rated movies. She went on to say that she got hooked on hardcore movies that were very disturbing. Quote, "It's the behavior that's attached to it, because if you want to have a lot of sex, that's great, but why are you having all that sex? That's what you've got to look at." Jada also shared that once she took it too far when it came to pleasuring herself, and she admitted that while she was taking a break from men, she became way too addicted to doing it herself. And at her lowest, she was doing it 5 times a day, before she suddenly decided one day that it was enough because it had taken control of her life. Number 2. Issues with Chris Rock. Viewers of this year's Oscars were left completely in shock when Will infamously walked up on stage and slapped comedian Chris Rock across the face for making jokes about Jada. But what most people don't know is that the beef between the Smiths and Rock actually goes back several years, so the tension has always been there. Chris once took aim at Jada while he was hosting the 2016 Oscars because the couple had very publicly decided to boycott the event. At the time, their protest was due to the fact that no actors of color were nominated for the 2nd year in a row. Chris said, quote, "Jada boycotting the Oscars is like me boycotting Rihanna's panties. I wasn't invited." He actually said this during his opening monologue, and it really seemed to sting the actress. The comedian also took a dig at Will at the very same time. He spoke about the actor's performance in the movie Concussion, saying that it's not fair that Will was this good and didn't get nominated, then added it's also not fair that Will was paid $20 million for Wild Wild West. It was such a burn that the couple was clearly not able to shake off. The open relationship. While on the Red Table Talk, some more very questionable things came out that exposed the nature of Will and Jada's relationship. Basically, Will implied that the couple's decision to open up their marriage was Jada's idea because she told him that she never believed in conventional marriage and that they needed to figure out how to make themselves happy individually. So it was almost like she told him that happiness can be found with other people. But Jada's affair with August started to make a bit more sense when she openly spoke about her disappointing sex life with Will. While talking with Gwyneth Paltrow, Jada outright said that keeping the spark alive in their marriage is hard, implying that although they've been married for almost 25 years, he still doesn't know exactly what she wants in the bedroom. Quote, "Because I think you expect your partner to know what you need, especially when it comes to sex. It's like, well, if you love me, you should know. You should read my mind. That's a huge pitfall." It must have been a little embarrassing for Will when Jada insinuated that he wasn't meeting her needs, but now it's obvious she was the one pushing for the open relationship. Number 10. Intimidation. A former intimate partner of Ezra called the police on the actor for allegedly threatening violence on them and becoming irate when asked to leave. The German woman who goes by the name Nadia told Variety in a recent expose that the alleged encounter with Ezra occurred when she invited them over to her Berlin apartment in February. She said at first the actor was super nice and polite until she told them that they couldn't smoke inside her home. Quote, "That just set them off. I asked them to leave about 20 times, maybe more. It was then that Ezra started insulting her and ordering her around as though she were a dog." But if you really want to know the strangest thing of all, apparently the 29-year-old went on a rant calling themselves the maker of planets and saying that tobacco was sacred to them. And while saying this, they were reportedly walking around her apartment spreading tobacco leaves on everything. It sounds kind of funny, but Nadia felt physically threatened and she convinced Ezra to leave by saying that she called the police. Number 9. Attempted break-in. At nearly 6 a.m. the next morning, Nadia heard a loud banging noise at the front door of her apartment building. When she looked inside, she could see Ezra at the door seemingly attempting to break it down, and said that they were screaming and kicking, that Nadia had stolen their passport and money. She then discovered that Ezra had left behind a second jacket in her apartment, which did in fact contain their passport and credit card. She threw down the jacket to them from her balcony and quickly ran inside side. It was an alarming final incident to what had already been a frightening experience. Quote, "I did not feel safe." She added that she had not seen Ezra since that night and she blocked their number on her phone. But she was deeply shaken about everything, as the actor has reportedly broken down the door into her bedroom as well when she tried to lock it and get them out of her apartment in the first place. Very scary stuff. Number 8. Iceland Bar. Carlos Rainier was the former bartender at a pub in Iceland that Ezra frequented. Rainier spoke to Variety, confessing that he had to intervene in 2 separate altercations involving the actor. The first was a heated argument between Ezra and a male patron that began as banter and ended in the actor putting the man in a chokehold and later slapping him. Rainier, who broke up the fight, says Ezra later apologized for the incident and the other patron quickly shrugged it off as a joke. All was forgiven and they were allowed to return to the bar. But the next time, they actually choked a young woman at the bar, and that was much harder to forgive. Rainier opened up about what it was like working at a bar that seemed to be Ezra's favorite place to cause trouble. Quote, "If they weren't lighting incense or candles or even bringing in their own Bluetooth speaker and playing it super loud to overpower our music, there was always something." The bartender recalled multiple occasions where Ezra caused a scene and even spat on him when he tried to break up a fight. Number 7. Investigated by CPS. This incident was not widely known at all because it happened in 2015 when Willow was barely a teenager. Jada admitted on the Red Table Talk in 2019 that she was furious after Child Protective Services showed up to the family home to investigate whether or not her daughter Willow was being starved. It all started when a 14-year-old Willow was photographed while lying in bed next to her shirtless family friend, who was 20 at the time. While she insisted that the photo was innocent, it was definitely extremely controversial, and CPS also thought so too. So they decided to intervene after the agency received a complaint accusing the Smiths of starving their teenager. When recalling the incident, Jada admitted that it was the first time she got really furious. Quote, "I was looking at the lady and the whole time I was thinking, you could be helping so many kids right now, and you're wasting your time with a child who has everything they need." According to the actress, both Willow and Jaden exhibited passive behavior throughout the visit and said that it was like their own personal protest to being investigated by the agency. Number 6. Substance misuse. When Jada was young, she had some very real issues dealing with the addiction that came with substance misuse. She also acknowledged that she drank excessively and used all kinds of narcotics. Quote, "For me, drinking red wine was like drinking a glass of water. I drank a lot in high school and then I went on to mix everything up." She then recalls a time that she mixed a variety of illicit substances that are a dangerous combination when used together. While on her talk show, she recounted before her mother and daughter that she was high functioning during the week and consumed almost no alcohol for several days, but spent her weekends at parties. Quote, "From Thursday to Monday morning, it was non-stop. Things went on like this for a while, until one episode that changed everything forever. It was in 1996, during the filming of The Nutty Professor, that a young Jada went to work still high off one of her partying binges, and she was in very bad condition. She went on to say that she passed out on set and told everyone it must have been from expired medication, and that was the wake-up call she needed. So when looking back on that time, she sees the whole thing as a miracle."
Coming in at number 5, Madonna reminded Beyonce and Jay-Z that she is the master. Again, also not a secret because people ran with it, but Madonna has posted a Photoshop picture of Jay-Z and Beyonce gazing at photos of Madonna's album. She captioned it, quote, "Learning from the master." People were pissed that a white woman used the term master to show her superiority over 2 black individuals. In response, Madonna didn't delete the post, but she did edit the word master out of it so it just said learning instead. I guess that works too. Coming in at number 4, she didn't actually move to New York City with only $35. Okay, so this one may be a bit disputed, but there may not be tons of truth to the infamous up-and-coming Madonna story. The legend is that Madonna left her small rural town where she lived with her 5 other siblings and traveled to one of the most expensive cities in the world, New York. Apparently, she also only had $35 in her pocket and used that money to claw her way up to fame. It is a true rags to riches story about using pure willpower and drive to become one of the greatest stars of all time. But it may not even be true. In fact, Madonna's own brother disputes this story. He stated that, in fact, she had a few $100s in her pocket given to her by family to help her start out, and she had some connections and contracts underway to immediately start as a backup dancer once she landed in the city. While it's still an extremely impressive feat to go from pure normalcy with little money to just how big Madonna is, the story of her only having $35 may be a case of broken telephone. and people deliberately stretching the truth to make it seem even more impossible than it already was. Coming in at number 3, Madonna doesn't like being a material girl. One little known fact about Madonna is that she has remarked that she regrets ever recording the track that would become her moniker, Material Girl. It is one of her most famous songs and became the nickname that she is most often represented by. Similarly, she also doesn't feel like she wants to be associated with a song like a virgin either. Quote, "I like them both because they were iconic and provocative at the time, but also they're so unlike me. I am not a materialistic person, and I certainly wasn't a virgin. And, by the way, how can you be like a virgin? I like the play on words. I thought they were clever. They're so geeky, they're cool." She also said that she never expected Material Girl to become as big of a hit as it was. Quote, "I've never been a good judge of what things are going to be huge or not. I'm resourceful, and if I ended up in a log cabin in the middle of the forest, that would work too. These things are not mandatory for my happiness. That's what I meant by I'm not a materialistic person." Coming in at number 2, Madonna and Prince wanted to make a musical together. In a 1989 interview with Madonna, she was asked who her musical aspirations are, and she named Prince as a vocalist that she admired. She then discussed her collaboration called Love Song. Quote, "We've been friends for years and admire each other's work, so we'd always talked about getting together to write. And in fact, there was a moment last year where we were possibly going to write a musical together. I went to a studio in Minnesota and worked on some stuff just to get a feel of what it would be like to collaborate." She then stated that her and Prince had a lot of difficulty creating a completed track. After she worked with him consistently for a few days, she left the studio. She no longer had any interest in writing a musical with him. Then, a while later, Prince approached Madonna with a demo that she enjoyed, but they ended up having to write the full track together long distance because Prince lived in Minneapolis and Madonna hated Minneapolis. The track, Love Song, did not chart the Billboard Hot 100. And finally at number 1, Madonna regrets posing naked for her book. While this article was posted quite a few years ago when Madonna was 49 years old, and she's 63 now, Madonna has stated that she seriously regrets posing naked so often in her youth. In her 1992 book, Sex, she believes that the reception of it was less about the beauty of the female form and expressing sexuality, and more so about how people branded her as an exhibitionist. She admitted that, at one point, she was much less adventurous, branding herself as prude. Quote, "I really was not getting up to much. I don't think I was as naughty as I could have been. I was quite straight. I was a geek when I was young. I did not really do much that was interesting." I think from what I got from this interview, it was less about the actual posing naked that she regrets, but more so about the public's reception about the book. It branded her as loose rather than expressing beauty through art. Coming in at number 10, she's not the best actor. Madonna has completely dominated the music industry, but sadly that doesn't always translate to the silver screen. She's been in 19 films throughout the course of her career, but not all of them were shiners. Starring in the 1996 film adaptation of the musical Evita earned the singer a Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy. But on the flip side, she's also won 9 Razzies. Razzies are the infamous antithesis of the Oscars for worst performances, and she won the dubious honor of Worst Actress of the Century in 2000. Rough play if you ask me. She's also turned down some pretty famous roles, including as one of the leading girls in Showgirls. While she's likely best known for acting and singing, she's also directed 2 feature films. One was in 2007 called Filth and Wisdom, the other in 2011 called W.E. Neither of these movies received the warmest of receptions from critics or audiences, and it was pretty universally panned as far as movies go. And at number 9, she suffers from brontophobia. Madonna reportedly has a massive phobia called brontophobia. Brontophobia is a fear of thunder and lightning. When she sees a storm coming, reportedly she closes all the blinds on windows and puts on giant headphones to drown out the sound of the thunder. At the end of the day, despite being one of the biggest pop stars the world has ever known, she's still very much human, with her own flaws and fears like the rest of us. Next up on the list is she dated John F. Kennedy Jr. While we all know of Madonna's infamous relationship over the years to people like Sean Penn, Vanilla Ice, Dennis Rodman, Lenny Kravitz, and Tupac, Madonna also dated the former president's son. Her disastrous marriage to Sean Penn is well recorded, and it's an open secret that it blew up due to accusations of infidelity, general chaos, and physical harm towards one another. Sean became known for his unpredictable outbursts and temper tantrums with a major jealous streak. He would often fly off the rails when he saw another man getting close to Madonna. That being said, following her messy divorce from Sean Penn, Madonna briefly dated John F. Kennedy Jr. for 6 months. In a memoir penned about the president's son that spends a bit of time delving into his romantic past, he's been linked to other celebrities like Darlie Hannah and Sarah Jessica Parker. But one of the least documented relationships he's been in was surprisingly with Madonna. Madonna was far from a big hit with the Kennedy family, with the pop star heavily leaning into the Marilyn Monroe imagery — can't imagine Jackie Kennedy being a big fan of that one — and the general disapproval of her religious iconography for fashion purposes. But the brief relationship absolutely did not last long, mostly because despite Madonna's recent past with Sean Penn, she actually found Kennedy to be much more frightening. Quote, whereas Sean would act out, perhaps give a photographer a body shot just to vent, somehow John's way seemed more personal. Madonna said that he would get up in her face, maybe an inch away, and scream at her at the top of his lungs when they were in a fight. I'm glad she left when she did.
And at number 7, Depp cried the first time. Johnny Depp got down on his knees and sobbed after hitting Amber Heard for the first time, the actress testified. Apparently he got so angry that he slapped her and she was in shock. After it happened, Depp apologized profusely, even crying at one point. Apparently Depp cried and said, quote, I will never do that again, I'm so sorry, baby, I thought I put the monster away. At that point, Heard knew she needed to leave him, but didn't want to. Continuing, quote, I wish I could say I stood up and walked out of the house, but I didn't. I was heartbroken. A few days later, Depp told her that he would rather cut his hand off than lay it on her. Heard testified, adding that he was calling and texting her to apologize, and eventually she forgave him and took him back. But unfortunately, that was not the last time that she claims that he hit her. And at number 6, explain first time she was hit. During Heard's testimony, we got to hear her side on the very first time that she was hit by Johnny. She told the jury, quote, I'll never forget it. It changed my life. Apparently they were together on the couch, drinking. Heard also testified that Depp was under the influence of harder illicit substances. Then Heard decided to ask him about a tattoo on his arm. He replied that it said, wino, prompting her to laugh, because she just didn't think it said that. But he allegedly did not find it funny and decided to slap her across the face, Heard testified, saying, quote, I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. I thought this must be a joke. She said she didn't move from her place because she was so shocked. Continuing, quote, then he slapped me again one more time. Hard. I lost my balance on the edge of the couch, and I wish so much that he'd say he was joking. Depp also allegedly said, you think you're funny, and Depp hit her a third time. When talking about the aftermath, Heard said, quote, I'm not dumb. I knew it was wrong and I knew that I had to leave him, and that's what broke my heart, because I didn't want to leave him. Depp denies this and claims Heard has an issue with the tattoo because it was done out of love for his ex-girlfriend, Winona Ryder.
Number 5. Vermont farm. Up until now, people have only been able to speculate about what really goes on in their Vermont farm. But recently, a new report has made headlines alleging even more concerning activity involving the actor and people that are underage. According to Rolling Stone, Miller is currently housing a 25-year-old mother and her 3 young ones at their elusive home that they share with their bandmates and friends. The report suggests that the property doubles as an unlicensed farm, which grows a certain leafy green substance and is also littered with weapons. The mother claims that the actor helped her escape the domestic violence that was occurring in her relationship, telling Rolling Stone anonymously that Miller's home has been a healing haven for the family, but the young ones are reportedly exposed to a large amount of smoke from the illicit substance in poorly ventilated environments. And sources who've been inside the property say that there are about 8 weapons of various sizes just lying around the living room, with some propped up next to a pile of stuffed animals. One source told a particularly disturbing story about one of the little ones finding a loose bullet and putting it in their mouth. Number 4. Mia Solange. Miller has been accused of inflicting twisted acts upon a former intimate partner, Mia Solange. These acts range from physical violence to emotional manipulation after they started dating in 2019. This claim against Miller came to light on April 1st when a Twitter account dedicated to Ezra Miller receipts made a number of messages public exchanged between themselves and the accuser, a young TikToker by the name of Mia Solange, where she declared that Ezra flew her from Hawaii to Oklahoma to work on a movie and that she was only 19 at the time. She also sent a photo of bruises on her leg supposedly sustained from Ezra, claiming that he would aggressively bite her. Solange's claims against Miller would would garner more widespread attention on April 23rd after they shared a now deleted video montage to TikTok featuring photos of the two, most of which were previously seen in the screenshot of their camera roll, and declared, quote, "Ezra Miller is not a good human and I can finally say so without being terrified." Sounds like it was an absolute nightmare. Number 3. Police body cam footage. A Hawaii police assistant chief recently admitted that Miller had been the source of 10 police calls in Hilo since March 7th, with complaints ranging from filming people at a gas station, traffic obstruction, and refusing to leave a restaurant. But police body cam footage has surfaced online, which really made the actor look terrible. In the video, one of the law enforcement officers is heard calling Miller sir, to which they respond, quote, "I'm sorry, I'm not a sir, I'm transgender non-binary. Please don't call me sir. If you fail to do that again, that is an act of intentional bigotry," and started citing US federal law. While asking police officers to identify themselves, the Flash star could be heard screaming requests for a full badge member and accusing the officers of touching their private parts, saying, quote, "I'm transgender, non-binary, and I don't want to be searched by a man." It was a fair request under the circumstances, but the video just made the actor look bad. Number 2. Harassment protection order. A mother and her child were granted a temporary harassment protection order against Miller in Massachusetts after alleging the actor behaved inappropriately towards the child and also brandished a weapon in a threatening manner. The Daily Beast's investigation reported that the family was at a downstairs neighbor's house on February 2nd, when Miller showed up reportedly wearing a bulletproof vest and started acting in a creepy manner towards the child. Miller allegedly told them, quote, "I've talked extensively with your child and they have a lot of power to them. At one point you're going to realize that you don't have any control over them anymore. They're an elevated being and they would be lucky to have someone like me guide them." The visiting neighbor told the outlet that Miller was especially focused on the child, allegedly pestering them with compliments, uncomfortably hugging them, and even touching their hips. When they were questioned about this, Miller reportedly blew up, opened their jacket to reveal a weapon, and started threatening everyone with it. Number 1. Cult behavior. In January, Chase Ionise accompanied Ezra Miller and his daughter, the now missing 18-year-old Indigenous activist Gibson Ionise, to Oakland, California, and claimed that the actor had also brought along 2 other young women, one known as Stella Marbles and the other was Mia Solange. While at a state park, Miller repeatedly told Chase that they believed themselves to be the second coming of Jesus Christ before pulling out a firearm. This really lines up with all their other cult-like behavior, as Gibson is not the only young person who seems to be caught in their spell. Miller has just about kidnapped Gibson and has been creeping on them since they were 12 years old. The Standing Rock Sioux Tribal Court has issued a protective order against Miller, whom they have accused of using violence and brainwashing to hold sway over the child. That is textbook cult behavior.